Sometimes in life, we're faced with moments that make us doubt our worth. Moments when people's preconceived notions and judgments weigh heavy on our shoulders. But there are others who rise above, who prove that intelligence, courage, and strength come in many forms. This is the story of Mary Jackson, an older woman with a quiet grace who would soon show the world what it means to truly challenge the limits of expectations. Mr. Anderson, calculus is more than just numbers. It's the language of the universe. Everything in life can be broken down into equations, and I'll show you just how powerful that can be. The students nod, some attentively, others less so, their attention waning as the lesson drifts into higher-level abstractions. But all eyes in the room are focused on Mr. Anderson, who feeds off their admiration, basking in the authority he has built in this space. As he finishes his lecture, Mr. Anderson turns his gaze toward the back of the classroom, spotting Mary Jackson, the janitor. She enters quietly, pushing her cleaning cart. The click of her shoes echoes softly against the floor, a sharp contrast to the polished atmosphere of the room. Mary is a middle-aged black woman, wearing a plain uniform, her face weathered by time and experience, but still holding a quiet strength. She has worked at this school for years, maintaining its spotless floors, its shining hallways. She's often overlooked, rarely given a second thought by most of the students and staff. For Mary, the classroom is a space she seldom enters, and even then, it's only to clean, to maintain the institutional surface that holds everything together. Her presence disrupts the flow of the class, but only for a brief moment as the students glance up. Mr. Anderson, noticing the slight disruption, decides to make an example of her. Mr. Anderson, well, Mary, it's good to see you. Since you're here, why don't you come up to the board and show us your skills? I'm sure solving a simple calculus problem is well within your reach. After all, everyone can understand math, right? The class reacts with a mixture of quiet chuckles and whispers. They are all too happy to play along with Mr. Anderson's game. They expect Mary to shy away, to retreat into the background, to quietly clean and leave them to their intellectual pursuits. Mary pauses for a moment, unsure of what to do. The laughter from the students, the mocking tone from Mr. Anderson ring in her ears. But Mary Jackson, despite the weight of every assumption placed on her, knows this is not the time to shrink into the shadows. She stands a little taller, takes a deep breath, and slowly begins walking toward the chalkboard. The room goes silent. Narration. The world has a way of writing people off. It creates its own stories for them before they even have a chance to speak. For Mary Jackson, the role of janitor had become a cage, one that others had built for her, a label, a story that had nothing to do with who she was or what she had within her. People looked at her and saw the uniform, saw the quiet, saw the wrinkles of age and experience. But what they couldn't see, the part of her that had been hidden for years, was a mind as sharp as any of theirs. A mind that had been quietly observing, quietly calculating, waiting for a moment like this. The camera focuses on Mary's face as she walks to the board, her expression calm, her hands steady. There's no hint of hesitation in her step, no sign of the fear that the students and Mr. Anderson expect. Her mind is already working, breaking down the equation in front of her, as if she's been doing this for years. As she reaches the chalkboard, she picks up a piece of chalk. The room holds its breath, waiting for her to falter, for her to back away. But instead, she writes the equation on the board with quiet precision, her movements deliberate and confident. Jasmine. In a world that loves to label, to categorize, to judge based on the surface, sometimes the most unexpected people are the ones who break free from those boundaries. Mary Jackson had lived her life invisible to most, but what they didn't know was that she had the power to defy every expectation placed on her. As Mary begins to solve the equation, the atmosphere in the room shifts. The students, who had expected her to stumble, are now watching in stunned silence. The hum of their laughter fades, replaced by the hum of uncertainty. Some students lean forward, squinting at the board, trying to follow her method. Others exchange confused looks, unsure of what they're witnessing. Mary works through the problem step by step. With every stroke of the chalk, her clarity and precision become undeniable. The room is no longer laughing. It's quiet, mesmerized. What was meant to be a joke, an attempt to belittle her, has now become a moment of awe. Narration. This was not just a lesson in math. It was a lesson in dignity, in respect. It was a reminder that every person, no matter their background, has the ability to surprise the world, to change the narrative that has been forced upon them. And today, Mary Jackson was doing just that. Narration. For years, Mary had lived in the shadows of others. It was the story society had written for her. An older black woman with a cleaning cart who kept to herself and was never given a chance to be seen for who she truly was. But today, in front of the chalkboard, she was rewriting her own story. And what she didn't realize was that she wasn't just solving an equation. She was solving a puzzle the world had set for her. A puzzle that said she didn't belong, didn't deserve respect. The chalk glides smoothly across the board as Mary works through the calculus problem with a fluidity that surprises everyone in the room. Her handwriting is sharp, her movements precise. She works through each step with quiet determination, breaking the problem down as though it were second nature to her. Narration. For most, this was just a math problem. For Mary, it was more than that. It was a chance to prove to herself, as much as anyone else, that she could. She could solve the impossible. She could rise above the limitations people had placed on her. As she reaches the middle of the equation, Mary pauses for a brief moment, scanning her work. The class, once skeptical, now holds its collective breath. The sound of the chalk on the board has become the loudest thing in the room, a stark contrast to the stillness that has overtaken the students. There's a brief flicker of uncertainty in Mary's eyes. She's deep in thought, but she never falters. Her fingers hover over the chalk just for a second. Then she writes the final part of the equation with precision. With one final stroke, she finishes the problem, and the room is dead silent. The class is in shock. What was supposed to be a mockery of Mary has now become something entirely different. The students, who had thought of her as nothing more than a janitor, are now riveted by her quiet intelligence. The atmosphere has completely shifted from mockery to astonishment. Some students blink, trying to process what they've just witnessed. Student 1. Did she just solve it? I didn't even know she could do that. Student 2. She's amazing. How did she? Mr. Anderson, who had expected Mary to fail, stands frozen at the front of the class. His self-assurance has completely evaporated. His mouth opens slightly as if he wants to say something, but no words come out. He was the one who had mocked her, had challenged her with the expectation of failure. And now he's the one left without an answer. The students are now whispering among themselves, their tone changing. No one expected this. No one expected Mary Jackson, the janitor, to walk up to that board and solve a complex calculus problem with the ease of a mathematician. Narration. For so long, Mary had lived in the margins, unnoticed, dismissed. And yet, in the span of a few minutes, she had shown the world what they had never taken the time to see. That she wasn't just someone who cleaned the halls, that she was brilliant. A mind that had been silently sharpening itself for years, hidden from the world's eyes, waiting for the right moment to shine. As Mary stands back, a slight but proud smile plays on her face. She doesn't look for applause, nor does she need it. But the room is no longer the same place it was just minutes ago. The students, who had once looked at her with judgment, now look at her with something entirely different: respect. A few of them exchange glances, their eyes wide with realization. One student, a young girl, raises her hand timidly, her voice hesitant but filled with admiration. Student 3. Ms. Jackson, that was amazing. I didn't know you could do calculus like that. Mary turns to the student, her face softening for a moment. She offers a small, knowing smile, the same one she had given her client earlier that day. It's a smile of quiet pride, but also humility. She has not sought the spotlight, but today it has found her. Mary. Thank you. But all it takes is a little patience and a lot of practice. We all have the ability to solve problems, no matter how hard they seem. You just have to be willing to stick with it. The room continues to buzz quietly as the students process what has just happened. The class no longer feels like a place of superiority. It feels like a space of equal respect, where intelligence isn't measured by what's on your resume, but by your ability to think, analyze, and persevere. Mr. Anderson, now standing at the front of the class, feels the weight of his own arrogance. His face has lost all its smugness. He stands there, fumbling for words, his mind spinning. How does he address the class? How does he justify his earlier challenge? Mr. Anderson: well, I must admit, I didn't expect that. Uh, Ms. Jackson, you've certainly proven me wrong today. The class is silent as they watch him squirm. For the first time, he looks uncertain, his earlier confidence shattered. He has been humbled. He never imagined that someone like Mary Jackson could challenge his authority in such a profound way. Mary doesn't respond to his words. She simply nods slightly, not out of pride, but out of understanding. She knows that this isn't about gloating or proving a point. This is about showing that everyone has potential, no matter who they are or what others may assume about them. Narration. In the silence that followed, Mr. Anderson stood at the front of the room, his earlier self-assurance slowly crumbling. He was a man who had built his identity on his intellect, who had come to believe that his knowledge gave him the right to look down on others. But today, Mary Jackson had shattered that illusion. She had proven that intelligence wasn't bound by age, appearance, or occupation. It was a force that came from within. The camera lingers on Mr. Anderson as he fidgets nervously with his hands, trying to regain his usual control. But the students are no longer looking at him with admiration. They are looking at Mary, their expressions full of respect. The shift is palpable, and Mr. Anderson feels the weight of his own arrogance. Mary stands by the board, her face calm, her body still. She is not gloating. There's no arrogance in her demeanor. Her intelligence speaks for itself. She looks at Mr. Anderson once, her gaze unwavering. The silence in the room feels heavy, as though everyone is waiting for him to say something, to acknowledge the moment that has just unfolded. Mr. Anderson: well, I suppose I owe you an apology, Miss Jackson. I didn't expect that. The words come out slowly, and it's clear that they are difficult for him to say. The arrogance he once carried so effortlessly is gone, replaced by an uncomfortable humility. The class watches closely, some students leaning forward, their eyes darting between Mary and Mr. Anderson. Mary looks at him, her eyes kind but firm. She doesn't say anything, but her silence speaks volumes. She's not here to humiliate him. She's here to stand her ground, to show that she too deserves to be recognized for what she can do. Not out of pride, but because she is worthy of respect, just like anyone else in this room. Narration. Mary had never needed to prove herself, not to the students, not to Mr. Anderson, and certainly not to anyone who looked at her with doubt. She had always known who she was. Her worth was not defined by what others saw on the surface. Today, however, the world saw a side of Mary Jackson that had long been hidden from view. A few students glance at each other, silently acknowledging the power of the moment. One by one, the students begin to shift in their seats. The class, which had once been filled with judgment and mockery, is now filled with a quiet respect. It's clear that their perceptions have been forever changed. Mary Jackson, the janitor, has earned something far more valuable than grades or applause. She has earned their admiration. Student 1: that was incredible. I didn't know you could do that. You're amazing, Ms. Jackson. The words come out hesitantly at first, but soon they are followed by nods from other students, murmurs of agreement. Slowly, some of them begin to clap. It starts quietly, unsure of whether it's appropriate. But then the applause grows, gaining momentum as more students stand and clap for Mary. Mary doesn't respond with a smile or a gesture of acknowledgement. She simply nods, accepting their recognition with grace. Her expression remains calm, almost serene. This is not about her ego. It's about the truth finally coming to light, and she knows the truth is powerful enough to stand on its own. As the applause dies down, the atmosphere in the room has shifted completely. The students, who once saw Mary only as the janitor, now see her for what she truly is: a woman of intellect, wisdom, and quiet strength. Some students who had been the most vocal in their mockery earlier are now looking at her with genuine respect. The atmosphere in the room has gone from uncomfortable laughter to a shared recognition of Mary's intelligence. Narration. The walls that had once divided them were crumbling. For the first time, the students realized that they had judged her wrongly. Mary Jackson had shown them that intelligence comes in many forms, and that it's not defined by what others think or expect. It was a reminder that we all have hidden potential, talents waiting to be unlocked, if only given the chance. One of the students, a shy girl who had never spoken much in class, approaches Mary hesitantly. She looks at her with newfound admiration. Student 2. Ms. Jackson, I've always admired how hard you work around here, but now I see just how much more there is to you. You're, you're incredible. Mary smiles warmly at the student, her eyes softening. She pats her gently on the shoulder before turning to gather her cleaning supplies. The classroom, now filled with a different energy, watches as Mary leaves the room with quiet dignity, not needing their applause but knowing that her presence has left a lasting impact. Narration. Mary Jackson had given them more than just the answer to a calculus problem. She had given them a lesson in humility, in the power of perception, and in the incredible potential hidden within every person. The students, once so quick to judge, now felt something stirring within them, a deep respect for the unexpected brilliance that had walked into their classroom. As Mary walks toward the door to leave the room, she does so with the quiet dignity she's carried her whole life. She's not in search of admiration. She doesn't need the applause, but she has, unknowingly, changed something inside each of them. The students, who only moments ago would have dismissed her, are now silently thinking about their own assumptions, their own biases, their own ideas of what intelligence truly is. One student, Jacob, a quiet but bright young man, who had been one of the first to laugh at the idea of Mary solving the problem, stands from his seat. He's no longer looking at Mary but at the chalkboard where her flawless solution still lingers. Jacob, I never thought about it like that. I never saw her as someone who could think like me. His words are quiet, but they hang in the air, almost like an epiphany. Another student, Emily, overhears and turns to him, her face thoughtful. Emily, she made it look easy, didn't she? The two students look at each other, both clearly shaken by the realization that they had underestimated Mary. Emily, who had been one of the more vocal skeptics in the room, now stands with a new awareness in her eyes. The room, which had once felt like a place of intellectual superiority, is now full of reflection. Narration. In that moment, Jacob and Emily realize something that many of us fail to see until it's too late. That intelligence cannot be defined by appearance. It cannot be measured by someone's job title, age, or external expectations. What Mary had done was not just solve a problem, it was about showing them that anyone can surprise you. Anyone can defy the odds if given the chance. As the students continue to process the moment, Mr. Anderson, still standing in the front of the classroom, looks around at them. He sees their reactions, respect, awe, and deep thought. He's clearly grappling with the shift. His gaze moves to the chalkboard, where Mary's solution still stands, perfect and unchallenged. He sighs deeply, his earlier arrogance completely gone. For the first time, he seems like the one who's learning, the one who's humbled. Mr. Anderson, I've been so caught up in the idea that intelligence is something you can see, something measurable. But what Mary just showed me is that real intelligence doesn't always look like what we expect. It's not about status or education. It's about how you approach the problem, how you think, how you persevere. The students are still unsure of what to say. The silence in the room is almost comfortable now, no longer tense, but reflective. Mr. Anderson breaks the silence, this time with a tone of sincerity, not mockery. Mr. Anderson, I have to admit, Ms. Jackson, I underestimated you. I apologize for that. The class looks at him in surprise. It's the first time they've ever heard him speak so humbly. The words are uncomfortable for him to say, but they carry weight. And for the first time, Mr. Anderson feels like he's on the receiving end of a lesson, not the one delivering it. Mary, standing at the door, turns slightly and nods to him, a quiet acknowledgement of his humility. She doesn't say anything, but her nod is enough. In her quiet way, she's taught him something far greater than calculus. She's taught him to see beyond the surface and to respect everyone for what they bring, not just what they seem to be. As Mary walks out of the classroom, the camera lingers on her retreating figure. The students are still processing everything that has happened. The classroom, which was once filled with mockery, is now filled with a profound sense of respect. The chalkboard stands as a testament to her brilliance, the answer to a problem that no one thought she could solve. Narration. In that moment, Mary Jackson not only solved a complex math problem, she solved something far more difficult. She solved the puzzle of perception. The students, the teacher, and even Mary herself had been taught a lesson about the power of hidden potential, the strength of quiet brilliance, and the importance of challenging the assumptions that hold us back. Narration. As the bell rings, signaling the end of class, the students begin to file out. But something is different now. The energy in the room has shifted. Gone is the arrogance that once filled the space. In its place is a quiet reverence, a deep respect for what they have just witnessed. Mary Jackson, the woman they had once overlooked, had shown them what true brilliance looks like. And in doing so, she had taught them more than any textbook ever could. The camera focuses on Jacob, who was the first to speak up earlier. He looks at the chalkboard one last time, his expression thoughtful. He's deep in thought, reflecting on the lesson he's learned. Jacob. I guess I've been wrong about a lot of things. About her, about a lot of people. You can't just look at someone and assume they're not capable of greatness. Jacob's eyes move to the door, where Mary Jackson has just left. He hesitates for a moment before standing up and walking toward the door. He wants to say something, but what? Words seem insufficient for the transformation that has taken place in him. As the students start to exit, Emily, the quiet girl who had looked up to Mary with newfound respect, lingers behind. She watches as Mr. Anderson begins to erase the chalkboard, the equation now a faint memory. But in her heart, it's still very much alive. Emily. I think we all learned something today. Mr. Anderson looks at her, pausing as he wipes away the final marks of the equation. For a moment, he seems lost in thought, considering her words. There's no defensiveness in his expression now, just quiet acceptance. Mr. Anderson. Yes, we did. We learned a lot. Emily nods and walks out of the classroom. The camera holds on Mr. Anderson for a moment longer. His gaze drifts back to the empty space where Mary had stood. His arrogance has been replaced by self-awareness, and something deeper is beginning to take root inside him. He knows that what he saw today has changed him. The camera shifts back to the hallway, where Mary Jackson is walking with a steady pace, her head held high. She knows the world around her hasn't changed overnight, but something inside her has shifted. She's no longer just the janitor. She's now someone who has left an indelible mark on the minds of the students and the teacher. Her walk is purposeful, and the sunlight streaming through the windows only enhances her quiet dignity. Narration. Mary Jackson had always known who she was. Her worth was never tied to her job or her age. But today she had shown the world that brilliance comes in many forms, that wisdom doesn't have to be loud to be heard. She had been underestimated, overlooked, ignored, but now she was seen. And in that moment, she realized that sometimes the greatest victories come not from what you win, but from how you change those around you. As she walks, a few students pass her in the hallway. They glance at her, nodding respectfully, their faces filled with admiration. One student, the same young girl from earlier, stops and looks at Mary with awe. Student 3, Ms. Jackson, I just wanted to say, you're amazing. I hope you know that. Mary smiles, but it's not a big smile. It's a soft, knowing smile, one that comes from a place of humility. She nods at the girl, acknowledging the compliment, but she doesn't need words to convey her thanks. She knows her worth. She always has. Mary. Thank you. But all of you can do amazing things too. Just don't let anyone tell you you can't. Mary continues on her path, disappearing down the hallway. The camera lingers on the empty space she leaves behind, a symbol of change in the air, the quiet power she has wielded. The camera pans to the classroom, now empty, save for Mr. Anderson, who continues to clean the board. The room is quieter now, more subdued. The students have left, but the impact of what has happened remains in the air. Mr. Anderson stands alone in the room, contemplating the lesson he's just learned, the lesson about true brilliance and about the people we overlook. Narration. In a world where labels are quick to be assigned, where assumptions are often made before a person can speak for themselves, Mary Jackson showed us that the greatest strength is in embracing who you are, quietly, confidently. She proved that anyone, no matter their position or role, has the power to surprise the world. And in doing so, she reminded us all of the one thing we sometimes forget. Intelligence and strength are not measured by titles, but by the courage to rise above them. The camera slowly fades as Mary Jackson walks into the sunlight, the world still uncertain of her, but Mary herself certain of who she is and what she's capable of. The door swings shut behind her, leaving the classroom forever changed.